It was supposed to be a flawless family sitcom moment, frozen forever on black and white film. A kitchen bathed in soft studio lights, chairs tucked neatly under the table, and the Anderson family gathered in perfect harmony. But rewind to that one episode in 1959. There, hidden between takes, is a slip no one expected to make it on air. A subtle quiver in Jim Anderson's voice, a hesitation in his smile, a hand trembling just enough to betray the polished illusion. This scene wasn't edited. The caption will warn you. Look again at this, father knows best. Blooper. Suddenly, 6 years of idealized family harmony unspooled, revealing the cracks beneath. From the moment the camera rolled, the viewers assumed they were about to watch the Andersons solve another everyday dilemma, lost homework, teenage mischief, or perhaps a lesson about honesty. Instead, they got a glimpse of real human fragility. Robert Young, the embodiment of fatherly calm, faltered in a way that broke the spell. His words, usually smooth as silk, caught on an unsteady breath. His hands shook just enough to catch the corner of the frame. If you blinked, you missed it. But linger on that tiny imperfection and the narrative fractures. You see a man under pressure, a performer battling more than missing lines. You sense the weight of expectation pressing down like a spotlight too bright to bear. That moment changed everything for the viewers who caught it. They didn't just watch another sitcom. They witnessed the unvarnished truth peeking through the veneer. And when audience members wrote in, at first confused, later fascinated, they sparked an obsession. How much of the Anderson family's perfection was simply smoke and mirrors? What went unsaid when the cameras weren't rolling? This mysterious clip became a phenomenon, inviting armchair detectives to scrutinize every episode for similar slips. Each quiver, each stutter, was a breadcrumb leading into a hidden labyrinth of Hollywood reality. To understand why this single blooper matters, we have to rewind to the birth of Father Knows Best. It began in 1949 as a humble radio show, a comforting hearth for American families weary from war and economic uncertainty. There, Jim Anderson was a different man, sharper, more impatient, a comedic foil who teased his kids and occasionally raised his voice. He was neither perfect nor predictable, but he was real. For 5 years, he aired live into living rooms, shaping a generation's image of family life. Then, in 1954, radio met television. The medium demanded a new version of fatherhood. Gone were the sarcastic asides and impatience. In their place emerged a gentle, wise patriarch. Robert Young's Jim Anderson was calm, understanding, and always delivered the right advice. Critics hailed him as the first intelligent TV dad, a man who exuded both authority and warmth. No wonder families flocked to their screens. It was an oasis of stability in an uncertain world. Producers spent 40,000 building a 3-wall set that looked like a real house. They filmed on 35mm film, kept 17 episodes in the can, and cost each one $25,000, an astronomical sum at the time. Mistakes were expensive. They couldn't afford to shoot endless retakes. And so, for years, a few awkward moments were left untrimmed, forever preserved in celluloid. Those tiny imperfections were usually invisible. Only the most eagle-eyed viewers, or those reviewing frame by frame decades later, would catch them. Which brings us back to that 1959 episode. A routine scene disguised as dinner conversation. Yet, in a single take, the ideal fractured. Perhaps Robert was struggling with exhaustion, juggling a demanding shooting schedule, while battling inner demons. Or maybe the lines hit a nerve that day, reminding him that his personal life was far from the fictional perfection he portrayed. Whatever the cause, the shake was real, raw, and unfiltered. The editors could have cut it, reshot it at a cost of $25 and restored the illusion. They did not. Instead, they let the moment linger, an unplanned gift for anyone brave enough to look behind the curtain. Imagine the collective gasp of an audience spotting that wobble for the first time. A ripple of doubt, curiosity, sympathy. Questions bloomed in living rooms across America. What is Robert hiding? Why didn't they fix it? Did the producers not notice? Or did they choose authenticity over perfection? Over time, this clip morphed into a legend, with fan theories swirling about studio politics, actor breakdowns, and secret on-set dramas. Each theory fed the fascination, giving life to a blooper that, in its simplicity, exposed the complex human stories tangled beneath the sitcom's bright exterior. And that's why, more than 6 decades later, this unedited scene still resonates. It's not just a slip-up, it's an invitation to question the stories we consume, to wonder what else lurks behind the laughs and canned applause. It challenges us to embrace imperfection and see the humanity in our heroes. So lean in, rewind, and watch closely, because this blooper isn't just a mistake, it's a revelation. Behind the bright lights and the canned laughter, Robert Young was spiraling. Years of bottled anxiety and whiskey-fueled courage had carved invisible lines across his calm facade. Each morning, he'd arrive on set wearing Jim Anderson's gentle smile. But once the cameras rolled, his true battle began. Lines that once flowed effortlessly now caught in his throat. The hands meant to rest on his children's shoulders trembled so subtly it took a frame-by-frame rewind to catch. Off camera, his wife Betty lived in constant fear of a breakdown. She'd sneak into the empty kitchen, find his half-finished coffee, and wonder if this time he wouldn't make it back home. The studio's insistence on perfection became a prison cell. Every award nomination, every sponsorship check tightened the bars. And when that blooper slipped through, it wasn't just a character's flaw exposed. It was a man's desperate plea for help, immortalized on the 35-mundarzen film forever. Meanwhile, 8-year-old Lauren Chapin existed in 2 worlds that couldn't be more different. On Father Knows Best, Kitten Anderson was sweet, curious, and beloved. In reality, Lauren lived under the shadow of an abusive, alcoholic mother and a violent father who betrayed every ounce of parental trust. School days were a confusing mix of homework and hushed whispers in the hallway. Classmates called her Kitten until someone reminded them she wasn't acting. On set, she became an adult mimic, learning humanity by heart, reciting lessons she never received at home. Long hours of rehearsal and filming bled into late-night therapy sessions with a tutor under a tiny tent. Between takes, she'd stare at the gleaming kitchen appliances and wonder if any of it could bring her family's house to life. When her tiny voice cracked on set, that moment echoed years of unspoken trauma, another blooper that revealed the chasm between illusion and reality. Then there was Billy Gray, the boy next door who drove a neat little car straight into scandal. As Bud Anderson, his biggest crime was questioning his father's advice or mistaking the family dog for a scientist. But in real life, a single plastic bag of discarded seeds became evidence of a criminal lifestyle. The cop's flashlight beam caught the little pouch hidden under his seat. And just like that, Billy's all. American image shattered. No reshoot could mend the headline. Child star arrested. His plea of no contest felt like a surrender to an industry that demanded spotless virtue. Instead of cheering crowds, he found barred gates and punched faces on a California prison farm. He returned to Hollywood a cautionary tale, a living warning that one mistake could erase your reputation in the blink of a newsreel. Every time the Andersons' theme music played, he heard a taunting echo of what he'd lost. As these personal tragedies intertwined with the show's creation, the behind-the-scenes magic grew more elaborate and more fragile. Producers invested $40,000 to build a four-walled kitchen set that rotated, giving cameras freedom to capture every angle of manufactured bliss. But the real machinery humming out of sight was the laugh box, a 2-foot-tall vault of over 300 recorded laughs, each selected to match the perfect emotional pitch. Producers like Eugene Rodney sometimes wept as they dialed in a giggle track for a line that landed with a hollow echo. Their tearful fine-tuning couldn't fill the void left by Robert's silent suffering, Lauren's childhood nightmares, or Billy's shattered dreams. In every master shot, the artificial warmth of that kitchen only underscored the cold reality beyond its painted walls. Despite the cracks, Father Knows Best thrived because it gave hope as much as it manufactured it. Families rallied to save it when Kent Cigarettes pulled out, writing thousands of letters that proclaimed their child's first word, the lessons learned, the memories made under flickering black and white screens. Advertisers like Scott Paper recognized a phenomenon worth $500,000 to reclaim. Proof that audiences didn't just crave perfection. They craved comfort. The show's ratings soared to 19 million households, and brothers and sisters huddled beneath blankets to binge the reruns on CBS and ABC late at night. Grandparents shared childhood stories of Anderson family dinners as if they themselves had lived them. Yet none of them ever knew the full cost behind each perfect smile and every heartfelt lesson delivered. This blooper lives on because it's more than an editing oversight. It's a reminder that life's truest moments are unpolished and deeply human. When Robert's hand shook, it spoke of a man drowning beneath his own creation. When Lauren's tiny voice stumbled, it exposed a child learning love from a script. When Billy's car window rolled down, it revealed how fragile our most cherished images can be. Each imperfection invites us to lean closer, to rewrite the narrative in our own hearts, recognizing that every family has a story far richer and far more complex than any television script can capture. In October 1954, CBS made what may be the single strangest scheduling decision in TV history. Father Knows Best, fresh off winning 4 national awards for its heartwarming portrayal of family life, was shoehorned into the Tundio 1 p.m. Sunday slot. Imagine a precious family show airing after bedtime for most kids, sandwiched between late-night news and adult programming. No child could stay awake, no parent could justify it. Critics were baffled. Newspapers praised the show's authenticity and gentle wisdom, yet viewers voted with their remotes. Ratings dipped, sponsors grew uneasy, and Kent Cigarettes, the one brand sponsoring wholesome family entertainment, pulled the plug after only 13 episodes. They had signed a 26-episode deal but capitulated early, citing poor numbers and an illogical time slot. The whole industry scratched its head. How could the most celebrated family sitcom fail to find its audience? The answer landed in CBS's headquarters in the form of thousands of meticulously penned letters. Fans didn't just complain. They crafted essays on how the Andersons shaped their own family dinners, described lessons learned about honesty and kindness, and begged for the show's return. One mother wrote that her timid son finally spoke up at school because Jim Anderson taught him the value of self-confidence. A grandmother mailed a scrapbook of clippings detailing every moral taught in each episode. The letters poured in by the truckload, so many that CBS executives scrambled to read each one. It was the first time television viewers organized on such a scale, turning passive consumption into active advocacy. This movement became the catalyst for a shift in network power dynamics. Viewers had leverage, and networks had to listen. NBC noticed the uproar and seized the opportunity. They struck a bold deal with Scott Paper Company, shelling out $500,000 to rescue the series and reposition it to Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. prime family viewing time. Production resumed in spring 1955, and the show quickly regained momentum. Ratings skyrocketed to 19 million households within months, making Father Knows Best one of America's top 10 most-watched programs. Advertisers flocked in, and the Andersons became synonymous with American family values. Industry insiders marveled at the turnaround, a cancellation reversed purely by public demand, followed by a ratings surge attributed to the right time slot rather than changes to scripts or cast. The lesson was clear. Scheduling mattered as much as content, and audience devotion could influence network strategies. This fan-driven resurrection also highlights a crucial reason why our blooper survived. In those days, networks required producers to keep 17 episodes in the can before any aired. Editors knew they'd get only one shot at cut and dry post-production. Reshoots cost $25 in each, an amount rivaling entire episodes of lesser shows. So when that tiny shake made its way onto film, budgets and deadlines conspired to let it stay. There simply wasn't time or money to reshoot a single door frame or cup placement, let alone a subtle human tremor. The production schedule valued forward motion over surgical perfection, and that decision immortalized Robert Young's unfiltered moment of vulnerability. Fast forward 70 years and digital restoration added a new layer of intrigue. In the age of high-speed internet and frame-by-frame playback, fans dissect every pixel. YouTube uploads squeal when someone spots the shake on a 4K scan. Enthusiasts debate whether it's the same trembling hand in other episodes, and conspiracy theories swirls. Was this a sign of on-set sabotage? A cry for help woven intentionally into the narrative? Or simply a human crack in the facade? Reddit threads catalog each potential blooper, fans timestamp the exact second in multiple uploads, and social media amplifies every finding in real time. The blooper's initial legacy as an editing oversight has evolved into an enduring symbol of authenticity in a world of overproduced perfection. Academics have weighed in too. In her 1992 book The Way We Never Were, historian Stephanie Coontz used Father Knows Best as a case study of idealized family values sold to post-war America. Coontz argued that shows like The Andersons weren't reflections of real life, but mirrors of aspirational norms. That tremor in Jim's hand is the perfect illustration, an involuntary human reaction slipping through the cracks, proving that real families are never as smooth as scripted. Media scholars cite that 1 second of imperfection as evidence that no matter how meticulously you craft an image, life seeps through. TV history courses dedicate entire lectures to audience agency, using the show's cancellation and resurrection saga as a turning point in viewer-network relationships. The blooper also prompts a deeper question: what do we owe performers who trade their reality for scripted ideals? Robert Young's battle with depression and alcoholism remained hidden until after his suicide attempt in 1991. His trembling hand wasn't an accident. It was a real, man moment captured on celluloid long before Hollywood acknowledged mental health. Lauren Chapin's brief voice crack spoke volumes about a childhood marred by abuse and neglect. Billy Gray's everyday slip up echoed far beyond a court date and prison farm sentence, coloring how we interpret on-screen virtue. When we laugh along with the Andersons, are we complicit in sanitizing the human experience? That single blow, caught in a single take, dissolves the barrier between performance and personhood. So, when you rewind and watch that 1959 dinner scene, resist the urge to treat it as mere trivia. That wobble is an artifact of economic constraints, fan activism, cultural myth-making, and individual struggle. It's a crossroads in television history, where authenticity peeked out from under a glossy veneer. It reminds us that storylines are crafted, but life remains wildly unpredictable. Every canned laugh in that kitchen masks 2 feet of darkness beyond the walls. By embracing imperfection, we honor the complexities actors carried, the fans who fought for a beloved show, and the evolving power of audiences to shape media. The decades have passed since the Anderson family first walked through that revolving set door, and yet that tiny tremor in Jim Anderson's hand still echoes across generations. In the early 1990s, when Robert Young finally spoke openly about his struggles, mental health advocates seized upon his story to break down Hollywood's stigma. His near-fatal suicide attempt in 1991 became a rallying cry for depression awareness, and the Robert Young Community Mental Health Center opened its doors on the principle that no one should suffer in silence. Film historians often point to that single blooper as a precursor, a candid glimpse of a man under unbearable pressure. Filmed long before mental health was even a phrase in network memos. It served as unintentional proof that actors are all too human and that no set of perfect lines can mask a breaking heart. Meanwhile, Lauren Chapin's journey from trauma to triumph carved a surprising new chapter in the Bloopers' legacy. After her near-fatal descent into addiction, she found salvation in faith and service. As a childbirth educator and AIDS charity advocate, she taught others to navigate pain with grace, drawing upon every painful lesson learned on and off the Father Knows Best set. In documentaries about child actors, producers and psychologists cite her story as a cautionary tale. No matter how idyllic the on-screen family, the safety net behind the scenes can disappear in an instant. When Lauren finally shared the truth about her childhood abuse, it underscored why that voice crack in 1959 wasn't just an editing mistake. It was the sound of a child suffocating beneath the weight of scripted perfection. On the other side of the spectrum, Billy Gray refused to be defined by a single arrest. After years of rebuilding his life, he embraced the thrill of speedway racing, navigating dirt tracks on brakeless bikes as if chasing freedom from his past. His invention of a locking water hose and subsequent award at the IBEX Marine Trade Show revealed an ingenious mind determined to outpace every setback. Today, Innovators and startups talk about the Billy Gray pivot as a case study in resilience, learning to reinvent oneself after public disgrace using ingenuity to defy expectations. His story, too, circles back to that moment when a police officer's flashlight caught the glint of stems in a Volvo under-seat compartment. That was the catalyst that turned a sitcom son into a designer of practical solutions in a completely different world. These individual arcs illuminate why the blooper has grown into a cultural touchstone. It's more than a curiosity for classic TV aficionados. It's a prism through which we examine fame, fallibility, and the human cost of entertainment. Media scholars assign graduate seminars to dissect the show's layered history, from its humble radio origins, through triumphs and travails, to its post-cancellation revival powered by viewer letters. They analyze the tremor in Jim's hand and ask students to trace the genealogy of on-screen vulnerability, a line that leads directly to today's unscripted reality series, where raw emotion is the commodity. They challenge the next wave of writers and directors to embrace authenticity instead of chasing manufactured harmony. In social media's golden age, the bloopers afterlife has found new highways. YouTube comments dissect frame by frame nuances. TikTok creators build mini-docs around each actor's personal journey. And Twitter threads spark debates about authenticity in scripted television. Hashtags like Pay-Shaking Jim Anderson and Faye Real Kitten Anderson trend periodically, drawing eyeballs to digital archives. Even streaming platforms have introduced Easter egg blooper compilations, packaging every surviving imperfection as a badge of honor rather than an embarrassment. The viewers now expect transparency. They want to know how many takes were required, how scripts changed between drafts, and where the actor's real self bled into their roles. The once hidden tremor now rides alongside fan theories, meme culture, and academic critiques in a public consciousness far broader than that captive audience back in 1959. Perhaps the most powerful lesson of all comes from the thousands of letters sent in 1954. In an era before petitions, tweets, or crowdfunding, ordinary families wielded the pen to disrupt network decisions and reclaim their favorite show.